For coming today. We wanted to really provide you some updated information. It's been a month long of response to various spring issues that really began in the first week of the month. I thought we were transitioning out of that first event, and then ultimately with high rains and then the floodwaters. It's really required agencies from the state, federal, county, and cities to work together. And honestly, I couldn't say enough about how all those agencies come together. And just really, once everybody starts focusing on one key thing, which is making sure people are safe and prepared, just thousands of decisions get made. We were calling balls and strikes for many hours of the day, and ultimately, we also got a break from Mother Nature from a slow melt and lack of rain. But it certainly want to emphasize today the strength of when something bad happens, there's a lot of really good resources at the federal, state, county, and city level that come together. Really also want to say a special thank you to Governor Noem and Mayor Tenhaken. They provided leadership throughout the entire event, resources that just allowed us to move as quickly as possible, so when people needed answers, we could provide it. So today we're going to hit really three key things. We're going to start with the state of the river flows, which really allows us to move into recovery operations. So we're going to start with Andy Berg. He's going to give you an update on that. And then Chad Heavey will give you a sense of where the three public sandbag drop-off locations will be. And then we'll close with Kelby Maris to give an update on parks. Let's start with Andy.
Good morning, Andy Berg, Public Works. As Mark mentioned, first we're going to talk with river flows, where we're at right now. The Big Sioux River flows peaked on the 26th at about 17,900 CFS. Currently that is down to 16,200, and we're going to see that elevation hold for a few days here, probably into early next week, with those waters coming from the Watertown area, the snowmelt to the north. We don't expect those levels to go up due to that. There's enough attenuation between there and here, but it is going to keep that level up. So our process here is, the waters have receded from their peak. We will be going out with our normal levee maintenance crews and just watching those flows, watching the levee elevations, looking for any potential wet areas along there. But basically the expectation is we've gotten through the peak, the waters are receding, the levee system performed excellently, and we had no issues with it. So it was a great test of our system. We think it performed admirably. The flows we will continue to watch. The Weather Service provides great information on their website for river forecasting, so we can see what to expect for the next week. Those trends are showing, following that Monday, Tuesday time frame, that they will start to drop off a little bit more rapidly, which is a great thing. So from now till early next week, we'll just continue to monitor things. We are not doing our 24-hour levee patrol any longer. Our levee maintenance crews that regularly watch the levee will continue to do so through the weekend into early next week. The Corps of Engineers has provided technical assistance through this event. They've been a great resource, provided a lot of insight to our federal levee system. They will be demobilizing today as well. Let's see here. The levee system is ready for the next event. We are constantly out checking for areas of erosion or any other concern. Have not found anything of significance. Any small areas that need a little riprap, we are addressing those so that we are ready for our next high river flow event. There is nothing in the forecast, thankfully, indicating anything like that, but we always want to be prepared. So as we move into recovery from this last event, our sandbagging operations, Chad Heavey will get us up to speed on that.
Good morning, Chad Heavey with Public Works. Yeah, now the big question, what do we do with all the sandbags? people got several options of how we can dispose of those. The first is they can be kept and used for future use for flooding. Another option is they can be opened and used, let's say for fill in your yard, or they could be used in your landscaping. But a lot of these properties have a lot of bags to dispose of. So the final option is we are going to open up 3 public drop-off locations, and they can be disposed of at those locations. The first location is Riverdale Park, which is at 2000 East 24th Street. I believe it's the one here in my near left. The second is to my far left, that's Tomar Park, and that's at 100 West Twin Oaks Road. And the third location is to my right, and that's Sherman Park, which was 2705 West 12th Street. That is the location where we had the filling operation and distribution option in prepare for the event. The locations will be open daily from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. beginning tomorrow, which is Saturday, March 30th, and they will close then on Saturday, April 13th. So there's going to be a 2-week period there that they are going to be open for the public to use. If you notice the boards up here, we do have arrows drawn in, and it worked very well at Sherman Park to kind of have an orderly ingress and egress out of these locations, and so we're going to kind of promote the same thing here. So at Riverdale Park, the best access would be at 24th and Cliff, and then head east and take 24th all the way into the park. And you're going to see some arrows in how you get around that location. And we'll have some wayfinding signage in these locations as well. Tomar Park, the best way to get in is off of Lotta Street and Minnesota Avenue. And we will want citizens to use Lotta and drive all the way to Locust and then head north and use the east entrance into that park. And then as they come through the lot, unload their bags, they can then come out of the exit up there, which really is Phillips Avenue. The Tomar Park site, there will be, that's where we had the flood barrier wall built. Right now they're working on removing that barrier between the 2 entrances, or the entrance and the exit, and so there will be some activities, cleanup work going on Twin Oaks Road, but that'll be west of where people will be entering and exiting the site. And then finally on Sherman Park, it'll be just like before. Enter off of 13th Kiwanis, go through the site, unload your bags, and then exit at 15th Street. Just some advice. Please be patient. The sites are open for 2 weeks, but it's going to be a lot of time. And I know people are going to want to get those bags out and get rid of them, but please be patient. Be careful. There's going to potentially be a lot of people at these sites, so just be careful as you're getting around in there. And then do expect a little bit of construction activity as well at these locations, because as these piles get bigger, there may be crews in there that are kind of pushing those piles up to create more room for people to drop them off. We also will have contractors coming in that'll be picking these bags up and then hauling them off to dispose of them. So please just be careful, be conscious, take your time, and use the entire 2 weeks, and I think we'll have an operation just like we had when we were filling and distributing bags. So with that, I will turn it over to Kelby.
Thanks, Chad. Kelby Maris with Parks and Recreation. While the flooding did impact and did damage to the park system, essentially from Legacy Park all the way down through Falls Park, we are in the midst of our cleanup efforts and restoring some of that damage. Some good news is, though, that even though Falls Park did sustain a little bit of damage, we will be opening Falls Park to the public by 5 o'clock today. The 2 exceptions to that within the park are the lower viewing platform on the west side of the park did sustain some flood damage. We are in the process of fencing that off, but we'll open the balance of the park to the public. Also, the bike trail as it goes underneath Falls Park Drive is also still underwater, and that part of Falls Park will also be closed. In addition to that, we are also going to open approximately 11 miles of the bike trail system from 49th Street, from West 49th Street, just north of Sertoma Park, going north along the levee system all the way to Falls Park Drive. Crews will be out today removing barricades and continuing the cleanup efforts along that stretch of trail. We also ask people to please be mindful while enjoying the recreational activities, especially in these two areas because they were both recently either flooded or part of the flood response. With the exception of Falls Park and this stretch of bike trail, the rest of the parks on our closed list remain closed. And want to make sure that that everybody understands that that Tomar Park in Riverdale, while the park is still closed, we are utilizing them for the Sandbag pickup, but the rest of the park is closed, and the parking lots are only to be used for that Sandbag drop-off operation. At this time, the city team would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So there is a lot of water still up north, especially like in the Watertown area, and they're expecting flooding coming up next week, but it hasn't even crested yet up there. So can you kind of walk us through why you guys are so confident that there won't be any more flooding here?
So the question was, with the peak still forecasted in the Watertown area and the water and the flows still high in that area, are we confident in the predictions down in the Sioux Falls area? Yes, we are confident in that. There's a lot of analysis that goes into that by the Weather Service based on the gauging stations all the way from Sioux Falls up to the Watertown area. There is a lot of snowpack and melting occurring up there causing that peak, but there's a lot of floodplain, a lot of space, a lot of time involved in that water getting down to the Sioux Falls area, and the models show that attenuation from the northern area of the watershed down to us will help spread that out. That's in part why our current elevations are holding flat for the next 4 or 5 days, is that water is coming through. It's just not confined or not a short enough travel time that it would peak it again down here.
So what's going to happen to all the sand from the bags, or just the sandbags in general?
The question was, what's going to happen with the sandbags or the sand? So we are in the process of letting a contract or a contractor will come into those sites, pick the sandbags up, clean the sites, and then they will, I'm assuming they'll use the sand and the bags for some type of a fill material at different locations. And there's always, in the contracting world and the development world, there's always needs for fill. And so we've had discussions with contractors, and they have places where this fill can go. And so it'll be, we open bids at 11, and so I'll know the results here shortly, but they will be using it probably in that manner. Oh, and just, if you do, a good question, I'm glad you brought that up. If you do use the sandbags at your home for fill or landscaping, you can put the sandbags in the trash container, but please do not put full sandbags in your trash container. It's not me you're going to have to worry about. It's going to be your garbage hauler that will probably have some issues. So anything else?
Is the 211 helpline center still taking phone calls, like if people need help getting the sandbags from their home to one of these sites?
If you would need some assistance, I would recommend they call 211, and they will discuss that with you and see what they can do for you. Well, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8, hopefully.